Hi, I wanted to share a few things that are my takeaways or things I wish I had known or did know and it helped me for the ICF MCC test, the actual performance test after the rest of your application has been approved. That final step, and then you get your credential, especially for the MCC. It really boils down to two parts: the environment and the approach to the questions, because the case study questions, the answers are either not things that I would talk about or how I would approach things. And so that was very confusing. So there was a lot that went into helping me to approach that in a way that enabled me to pass and feel pretty decent about my process going through the whole. In terms of the environment, I do want to start there because that made a big difference. I was so stressed out because I didn't want to trek to a different town to figure out the whole testing process. I mean, I could have, but that was added stress for a lot of reasons. Finding a place within the place where I'm living, within the house that I'm living, was also a challenge to me, in part because I really keyed on the fact that there need to be no windows and nothing around you. I was like, what room in the house has that? So I was literally gonna lock myself into a guest bathroom, which I found out later wasn't gonna work. But what ends up happening, or what ended up being more clear after the fact and while I was testing, is what is in eyesight of the camera, who could see from behind you, and what is arm's length away. Because where I ended up doing it was in my master suite, surrounded by piles of laundry that I should have taken care of, which is funny in retrospect, but so much stress at the time because it's just freaking embarrassing. What also I think would have been helpful if I had tested the internet from the room that I expected to be in, because I started like 15 minutes before the check-in time to test my environment, and I realized I had tested everything from like my designated office, which of course it works. I didn't test it from the room I was expecting to test from, and nothing worked that morning. So that was its own stress. Like, I was sweating, and it's not even like summer. So that was a situation. What ended up happening is, by the time I just told the universe I'm doing this, and I picked a place between my mounds of laundry, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. Nothing is in arm's reach. I emptied out everything. Instead of doing another systems test, because it kept failing, I just checked in, and everything worked. Nothing dropped, except for one time while I'm juggling the laptop trying to show my environment. So that, I feel like, was telling to me, in that the systems test just kept saying no, and the check-in just went through. So I don't even know what to make of that. I'm just sharing. When it came to the approach for questions, I knew that I was just so tormented by which answer was best and which answer was worst, because I'd walked through different scenarios in different group and mentor sessions. What ended up really being helpful was the approach to the questions. One was that it had to air from the benefit of the client. So it couldn't just be client-centered. If all things came to a head, it had to benefit the client. So in the sample questions, there was something about if you may or may not have a conflict of interest. Well, to err on the benefit of the client, then you are in fact doing what the client would need, versus as a coach, well, I'll figure it out later. So that was a helpful scenario that I actually got from the Alyssa DeHart training. And then in my networking, I got to the part where somebody explained to me that it's about anchoring in the moment. And that person was my friend Karen, who just thought about it from that approach. So in thinking about it from the client benefit and from anchoring to the moment, that helped me to approach the questions in a way where the answers became more clear. More about the anchoring in the moment. So that would mean, like from the sample questions, when something happens and you're talking about next steps, that's jumping to the next steps versus celebrating that moment and letting the feelings seep in. That would be more of the anchoring to the moment. And that's actually going to improve my coaching because like I hadn't made that connection before. So those were two approaches that helped me with the questions. And then between the environment and the approach, that was really what it took for me to pass that test.